this morning, facing more allegations of misconduct and inappropriate behaviour today following his suspension as a Tory MP.
And as we know now, it comes after the MP for Tamworth said he is now seeking professional medical support following these accusations of groping two men while intoxicated at the Carlton Club in London.
Chris Pincher quit as Tory Deputy Chief Whip on Thursday and will now be subject to an investigation which he claims he will fully cooperate with.
And as you can imagine, the Sunday newspapers are full of it at the moment. Lots more stories, lots more revelations, and I suppose it just begs the question is what happens next and what happens to him next. So let's get the latest from political commentator Lettice Bromovsky. Hello there, hi. It is a bit of a mess, and frankly, you could say the fact that it wasn't dealt with swiftly and sharply has resulted in this plethora of headlines in today's newspapers.
Yeah, completely. I mean, Boris has once again found himself at the centre of this scandal somehow. And the latest today, particularly good story on the front page of the Telegraph, although I know it's on a few others, is that he actually knew about Chris Pincher and these allegations long before this incident happened. So there's lots of levels to this, but one of the most important is that in February, when Mr Pincher was appointed, there was actually a lot of opposition within his own party. So Steve Barclay, the MP, came forward. Apparently a cabinet minister also spoke out against this. But most importantly, a senior whip, Craig Whitaker, ended up resigning in opposition to this. This also comes off the back of the fact that Mr Pincher had allegations against him from previous years. So in 2017, there were allegations against him from Alex Storey, a former Olympian and former Tory candidate, that he had been inappropriate with him. And then there was another allegation in 2018. And I think it's pretty outrageous that he managed to find himself in the position of Deputy Chief Whip when people who were potentially expressing or having situations of sexual misconduct against them would have had to have gone to the whip to report this. And there was a man in this position who had multiple previous allegations of sexual misconduct against him.
I mean, can you explain to any of our viewers who don't really know what a whip does, why this, what the job is and why it is so inappropriate to give that job to somebody who's troubled themselves?
Well, exactly. I mean, the whip is essentially, well, one of the main roles is to be the bastion of behaviour and sort of ethics within the Tory party. So that was what he was there to do. And yet on Wednesday night, as we saw, he was getting so drunk that he couldn't speak, he could barely walk, and he was having to be put in a taxi at 1 a.m. And then have multiple instances of people calling the Chief Whip to complain about his behaviour. So it just doubles down on how outrageous this is, that he was even in this position. And
he wrote a letter last night, or issued a statement, I should say, saying that he will cooperate with the investigation. And he repeated, you know, the statement that he was sorry for his behaviour, but he's not resigning.
No, he's not resigning. And you said earlier that he's going to try and seek help for this. You know, that's a good thing, definitely, but it's too little too late in this situation. What I thought was particularly outrageous was that we had Neil Parish yesterday, the MP who was forced to resign over watching pornography in the House of Commons, not once, but twice. He was coming out to say that there was a double standard here. I'm not quite sure how we've managed to get ourselves into a situation where the spectrum of scandals coming out is whether it's Neil Parish at one end watching pornography or Imran Khan at the other end, who has now been charged conviction for sexually assaulting a child, and how we've got this whole...
I mean, frankly, none of them have the right to an opinion on this matter.
No, exactly.
And I guess we should be very sure to make the point that the allegations against Chris Pincher are allegations, not of drunkenness, because he admitted to that. But the allegations of sexual misconduct are at the moment just allegations. But by the look of it, he has form on this sort of allegation.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's putting the Conservatives in another huge predicament where they're essentially going to be forced into having another by-election. And after the disaster that was Tiverton and Wakefield, which were, Tiverton in particular, it had a 21,000 seat majority, 20,000 voter majority, and it still swung to the Lib Dems. Right now we have Tamworth, which is Chris Pincher's seat, has a 19,000 majority, But I don't think any seat is safe at the moment.
Do you think that's why he hasn't resigned yet? Maybe he's under pressure to do the right thing, make all the right apologies, but actually not cause a by-election?
I mean, potentially, but I think a by-election at this point is inevitable. You've got even councillors from within the Tamworth constituency calling for him to resign, asking him to do the honourable thing. You've got an investigation into him, which from least of all the amount of eyewitnesses there were on the night, is most likely that he'll be found guilty of some sort of impropriety.
One interesting and probably a question I even shouldn't ask, but I'm going to anyway, is if the allegations had been about him groping women, would his resignation be absolutely have had to happen like that? The fact that it's against men, honestly, is not seen as almost quite so important.
I think the main reason why he has held on for so long is, in fact, because he is a devout Boris loyalist, and Boris does reward those people who are most loyal to him. We saw that first and foremost with Owen Paterson back in November last year. But he was instrumental in helping Boris in his Save Big Dog plan back in January. And I think that this is Boris sort of, it took him so long to even suspend the whip. It took till Friday night, so I think that's why.
Just very quickly, do you think that you've already said you think there will be a by-election? Are you talking about after the outcome of the investigation, or you think he'll just go before then?
I expect that he will resign before then at this point, yes. So I imagine there will be a by-election, another one coming up very soon.
Yeah.
Doesn't fill you full of confidence, does it, at the moment?
No, not
it's just
at all.
like
not
dominoes
at all.
going down.
Yeah.
And in the most tawdry way. You know, the word
It's
sleaze. I
one
know that
scandal
Labour
after
bring up this
another.
word sleaze again and again and again, but it's beginning to stick, isn't it?
Yeah, completely.
Good to see you this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Lettice Bromovsky, their political commentator.